Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the kind introduction. So this is a pleasure for me to explain to you something about NANOfuture, about some part of NANOfuture, which is actually taking care of safety. And if you just have in mind the discussion of the past 2 days, or 2.5 days, of course safety was always a very important discussion with regard to nanotechnology. So of course safety has to be an integral part also of NANOfutures. So since I'm an industrial representative, I have some, of course, some key messages also from the industrial point of view, because at the end safety has to ensure the successful commercialization of nanomaterials, of nano-based value chains. So this is of course a very key industrial issue. So because of this, I have a very specific view on that. So just to start, usually we discuss innovations and nanofutures, or nanofutures with respect to innovations as a very key part to serve the European innovation strategy and innovation agenda. And if you have listened to the presentations and the discussions of the past 2 days, you of course have seen that we are all talking about technology challenges of the society, and I have just listed a huge number of them. Of course, we need innovations in order to serve those societal challenges, and of course the contribution of NANOfutures and the safety work of NANOfutures has to ensure that this work will be successful in order to address those societal challenges. So my next statement, also from the industrial point of view, even if it is boring because I have shown this figure very often, I do this because I have some impression that people today who realize that the Commission and the society today is talking about innovation, they just replaced the label research by the label innovation. And this is something what I would like to address, to say, listen, this innovation agenda is much more than just a research agenda. So if we are talking about research roadmaps and innovation roadmaps, these are completely different. And so you need much more to gain innovation and to deliver the benefits of the innovation to the society than just doing research. So of course innovation starts, many cases, at the stage of research, then continues through the development of something, then having a product. And even though you have a product, you don't have necessarily an innovation, because this product has to be commercially successful. And I believe in the one session we had a very nice example of the company MagForce. MagForce have done research for maybe 15 years, then they have done development of their cancer treatment products for 10 years, and now they have got the approval to go to the market, so they have got the product, but they still didn't have the innovation because they are not successful yet on the market. So before they will deliver this innovation, it will take some additional 5 years. So this is much more than research. So this is quite complicated and quite important. Okay, and if you would like to deliver this, then of course you have to go through the value chain. We have seen that from Vito, that this value chain can be quite complicated. And if you come to NANOfutures, of course NANOfutures deals mainly with technical aspects of the beginning part of the value chain, namely this part of the value chain here, somewhere here, up to maybe a nano-enabled part, so nano-micro integration. This is something like this. And just to come to Christos' initial statements, of course we have to identify at first the target, and the target is of course somewhere here. The customer whose needs has to be fulfilled, and which systems and which parts will fulfill this. This is of course the key discussion which has to be defined in front of that, and then you can go and then try to deliver this type of technological building blocks which are as keynotes part of NANOfutures. And if you have in mind this value chain, of course safety, safe products, safe steps along this value chain are very key. So this is the reason why safety is also a quite important topic within NANOfutures. just to show you, of course, this innovation needs some cross-sectional topics like education, basic research, public-private partnerships, some sort of organization, also some politicians and regulators who give the direction and who are talking about what are the benefits of this technology, and then the financial sector, insurances, IP sector. So these are all parts of the value chain, even though they are not explicitly within this technical value chain. And of course, if we are talking about value chain, and we have just heard sustainability, this is of course also a part of the life cycle. So at the first step, of course, if you would like to go to a sustainable development and considering life cycle assessments and something like that, then you have to have the target, because a life cycle assessment without having a target is nonsense. So just to make life cycle assessment for carbon nanotubes is impossible, because you have to know this one. And then you can do the life cycle assessment. And this is also part of safety, and also part of regulation, and also part of standardization, which has to be done always along this type of life cycle. Coming to NANOfutures, this slide has been shown. So NANOfutures is going to cover all those topics, and very specially, of course, safety issues. So Paulo has shown this network where in this axis you have the ETPs. At the end of the ETPs, of course, you have the target. So if you would like to have the target, you have to involve the ETPs, and then they can define how they will achieve it. And then you can go in this cross-sectional, in this cross-cutting horizontal issues, and then you can deliver the technological building blocks for this. And you see the list, and you will see immediately there is, of course, industrial safety, what I'm representing, but also safety research of the group of Rob Aitken, then standardization, regulation, which are somehow related to each other, and quite important to manage the success of the commercialization and of the innovation. Just a remark, what is the difference between safety research and industrial safety? From my perspective, from the industrial perspective, we realize that there are, of course, there's a lot of work done to perform safety research on how biological interactions of nanomaterials can happen with with cells and so on, or also what are the release and exposure potential of different applications at different stages of the value chain. So a lot of research can be done with respect to safety. But not all of those research topics are relevant for the commercialization, because for the commercialization also only a sub-part of the possible research is important, because this part which is really immediately needed to ensure the commercialization. So, and this is the reason why we have this working group industrial safety, which would like to deliver all those targets which are really important from the commercialization perspective and not purely from the scientific perspective. Okay, so as I just mentioned before, here is a clear statement. Of course, the working group industrial safety strategy supports the responsible and safe development of nanotechnology and nanomaterials-based products and value chains. So this is very clear. So this is the goal. So this is the overarching target for this group. Then, of course, it has to incorporate the needs of the ETPs, because the ETPs are the owner of the targets, so to say, the development targets. So therefore, it is important to have the inputs, or the inputs of those industrial participants of the value chains who know the targets, so that we can deliver safety research early enough not to get gaps between product on the market and getting safety results from our work. So we have to narrow this gap, or this time shift. In the optimum case, all safety research is done when you come to the market with your product, and there's no delay. So in order to do that, you have to be aware, of course, what is the research and development and innovation direction of the ETPs. So this is the need why you need this type of input. And of course, then if you have this input, then you can develop a roadmap for this type of industrial safety research, which part of the safety research has to be done at first and second, and maybe something which is not that important. What are the contributions of the working group industrial safety strategy to NANOfutures? I just would like to stress two issues. One issue is really the engagement of industrial downstream representatives of the ETPs and also other value chain participants, because you really have to know what they are going to do and what are their development directions, what is the view of the futures of those guys, and how to serve this by delivering the right safety research at the right time. And of course, in addition to that, the second point was the identification of relevant keynotes. I think Vito have explained that quite clearly. We have identified the keynotes, so you know this slide, and the keynotes are like this. And here you see safe and sustainable as one keynote, which means along all technological building blocks, along all steps, you have this additional part, safety research, which includes, of course, safety in general, safety research, industrial relevant safety research. It includes also standardization, because standardization is also an integral part of that, and also regulation at the end, because safety research and regulation in the long term are strongly related to each other. So this is the reason why this keynote has been created as an overarching cross-sectional issue containing different topics and covering all other, or supporting all other keynotes also. Just to end my presentation, the identified need action points related to the horizontal working group industrial safety strategy. As I just mentioned before, so the awareness of the ETPs and of the industrial representatives to the safety issue is very important. It sounds very simple, because everybody will tell you, I want to have a safe product, but safety has to be delivered at the end of the value chain, so the final product has to be safe. All those companies who are related to the end of the value chain, they have to deliver safe products, but usually they don't take care of safety, because they just rely on the previous steps of the value chain. They just show to the chemical industry usually and say, oh, you have to deliver safe products. But the chemical industry have to know safe with respect to which type of application. So then you need this type of interaction between the beginning and the end of the value chain. So, and to get this interaction and this connect, you need to raise the awareness of those guys at the end of the value chain. So this is, for me and for my understanding of this working group, is very key. Of course, on the other hand side, you have to gather and get all existing safety informations, bring everything together just to make sure that you know what is already known. Then you can identify knowledge gaps. If you get the input of the industry, what is the future direction? So the gaps you only can identify if you know how the future would look like. Because just to say gaps, of course you have an infinite number of gaps, everywhere are gaps. But you have to identify where are the really relevant gaps for the commercialization. And for this you need the future direction, you need the targets. And how the targets will be achieved in the future. And at the end, of course, again, which was discussed, a statement which was discussed in this conference very often, we don't need a general safety discussion and a general safety framework. We just need it, again, value chain specific. Because if you want to deliver a general safety, then you have to deliver an infinite amount of work. And as just Mr. Ebrecht mentioned yesterday, not all measures are affordable. And of course, just to finalize it, it makes no sense if you just do it in Europe. This type of work has to be on a global level, so also a global harmonization has to be ensured on the harmonization has to be ensured on a global scale, which is, of course, it shows you that also the safety discussion and all this type of topics has to be embedded, of course, in a very, very much broader perspective than just a regional, national, European perspective. It has to cover, of course, also a worldwide frame of this work. So with this, I would like to finish, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Peter, for this nice talk. So we are getting closer to the practice, as you realize here. I don't know whether anybody from the audience has a question to this contribution.
The targeting, as you said, is the most important aspect, because that's exactly what will bring the various people together. Now, you've mentioned that we get the targets from the ETPs, but we want the targets for meeting grand societal challenges. So probably we need to have a number of ETP objectives that would coalesce into that objective that would guide in reverse manner, the technologies, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that, and then we have the product, so we need to define the products, and what I saw, we had a very nice methodology from Vito of extracting the priorities and the nodes. Now we need to have a methodology of extracting the targets and the people who would really go and follow that targets and see that they've been fulfilled. It's a big task.
It's a big task.
It's a big task.
But it's very clear you need the targets, because without targets, you don't know what are the building blocks.
If I would like to leave a message today, and I hope you agree, is that if we don't get the targets, the NANOfutures would not really deliver on what it was supposed to deliver, commercializing nanotechnology.
That's it, because nano, in fact, as probably the most of you will agree, is a tool, and you have to use this tool to achieve something.